Hello, my friend, and welcome to the study. Today we're going to be doing April's study almanac. So continuing on from our almanac discs, January, February, March, and today we'll do one for April. We'll be looking at some books. Well, one book, because at the moment my library is between locations. So I don't have as many books on hand as I would like. But I do have my Lucretius and a few paints, so I'll be decorating our disc. Nothing spectacular, but something from the study. It's all about the journey, isn't it? We'll also be looking at some nice foldy, papery maps. We'll be going to some places in England, looking at nature and wildlife, and visiting the planet Venus, and looking at some Greek mythology. As April is the month of high spring, of rebirth, new energy, life, and baby animals, there's a freshness in the air, a promise of warmth, of summer to come, and a celebration of life. We can feel this energy, these exciting vibes, and take heart with the renewal happening all around us. As always in this study, we'll look forward and look back as we do our monthly almanac. April is a month where we have more spring weather. It can be very changeable as we progress towards summer, with rains and sunshine and warmer winds and longer days. In the forest, we see sea of bluebells. These bluebells are always associated with ancient woodlands, in addition to the white star or wood anemones. These grow very slowly because most of their seeds are not fertile. It is said that it can take 100 years for the wood anemone to spread 6 feet. So they are also a good indicator of ancient woodland and forest. And with that, the magic and mystique of the woodlands. And as everything starts to burst leaves and blossoms, we can bask in the color green, the most soothing color that radiates calm and relieves anxiety. So we can walk through the ancient woodlands and see the vibrant green of April's fresh spring foliage and feel nurtured and balanced. Trees like beech, well known for the beauty of its April new leaves, is one of the last broad-leaved trees in the British Isles to sprout leaves near the middle of April, about now. For the fauna, baby animals abound this month, both on the farm and in the wild, and spring's brown hares have their first babies, called leverets. These leverets can often be found alone in their nests because their parents can leave them. They weigh in at around 100 grams when they are born, and at 2 days they can already run, and their mother only needs to visit them once a day. Spring is also breeding season for weasels, though the kits usually won't venture above ground out of their den until May or June. Many of the British Isles' native bird species start their breeding season in April, but some nests already have hatched young calling for their meals. These include blackbirds, thrushes, robins, and wrens. Many of the summer visiting birds will not arrive yet, not until May, but during the second half of April, the woodlands will begin to fill with birdsong. Cuckoos as well can appear as early as April, dependent upon the Gulf Stream. They will be heard along rivers and in woodlands, and have even been known to migrate twice to Africa and back again in one season. Birdsong in Britain usually starts from late winter and stretches into early summer, so it's the most musical time of year in the woodlands. Some of the favorite songs include that of the woodland lark or the woodlark. This bird is in lowland heaths and edges of the woods. Its song has been described as hauntingly beautiful, an evocation of the strange landscapes that it calls home. Also, songs from the blackbird, the song thrush, the nightingale, skylark, missel thrush, willow warbler, blackcap robin, and goldfinch abound in April. Looking to the sky, we see that the full moon on the 13th of this month will begin to wane, and we have a new moon at the end of the month on the 27th. Just like the birds in spring, the planets have their own dawn chorus this month. Mercury will reach a maximum separation from the sun in the morning sky on the 21st, and is seen best just before sunrise. On the 24th, Venus is at its brightest and most luminous in our sky. It will not be as bright again for another 18 months. Venus can be seen in the east just before the sun has risen. It is the second planet from the sun, the third brightest object in Earth's sky after the Moon and the Sun, and the third smallest planet. So we're putting Venus near the center of our Almanac disk this month. Venus is a terrestrial planet and is the closest in mass and size to its orbital neighbor, Earth. It has by far the densest atmosphere of all the terrestrial planets, composed mostly of carbon dioxide with thick global sulfuric acid cloud cover. So though it's beautiful to see in the sky, it's a highly hostile environment for humans and life. The orbits of Venus and Earth are the closest between any two solar system planets. They approach each other in synodic periods of 1.6 years. Venus's weakly induced magnetosphere is caused by atmospheric interactions with the solar wind. Its internal heat escapes from active volcanism, resulting in resurfacing. There are only two planets in our solar system without moons. One is Mercury and the other Venus. Known as the evening star or the morning star, depending on its position relative to the Sun, Venus has long been revered as a symbol of the divine feminine in cultures around the world. In the old Babylonian period, all the way to present day, in China, in Europe, in North America, in Asia. As with everywhere, Venus will have her own name. Venus was observed in the ancient world by Andalusian astronomers, Chinese astronomers, Babylonian astronomers, and also Pliny, Diogenes Laertius, Ptolemy, and, of course, later on, Galileo Galilei. Galileo first observed the planet with a telescope in the early 17th century. He found that Venus, like the Moon, showed phases, and this would only be possible if Venus orbited the Sun. This was among the first observations to clearly contradict the Ptolemaic geocentric model, that the solar system was concentric and centered on Earth. One of the things that led to Galileo's excommunication in Padua. A transit of Venus means that Venus appears in front of the Sun and can be tracked from Earth. Venus transits only occur when an inferior conjunction takes place during some days of June or December. This is when the orbits of Venus and Earth cross a straight line with the Sun, resulting in Venus transiting above Earth in a sequence currently of 8 years, 105.5 years, 8 years, and 121.5 years, in pairs forming cycles of 243 years. These transits of Venus were important historically because they would allow astronomers to determine the size of the astronomical unit. It's also important for navigation. The size of the solar system, as shown by Jeremiah Horrocks in 1639, was possible with this first known observation of a Venus transit. Only 7 Venus transits have been observed so far, since their occurrences were calculated in the 1621 book by Johannes Kepler. Captain Cook sailed to the southern hemisphere and to observe the Venus transit from Tahiti in 1768, so that he could record the 3rd observed transit of Venus. This subsequently resulted in the exploration of the east coast of Australia and his mapping and circumnavigation of New Zealand. The latest transit pair was June 8th, 2004 and June 5th through 6th, 2012. The preceding pair of transits occurred in December 1874 and December 1882. The next transit will occur in December 2117 and December 2125. Venus, this beautiful luminous planet, is the celestial embodiment of love, beauty, and fertility. It captivates the human imagination with its radiant brilliance in the night sky. Its cycle of appearing and disappearing from view has been interpreted as a metaphor for the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. So it's apropos that we see Venus at the moment in the springtime, as the sun comes up and a new day is born. Venus is also associated with the luminous qualities of harmony, balance, compassion, and she represents the divine feminine energies of love, creativity, and artistic expression. We can cultivate a deeper connection with the natural cycles and rhythms of the universe, fostering a sense of inner balance and wholeness as we observe Venus. In the early morning sky, she invites us to cultivate a life of grace, beauty, and inner tranquility. Venus can also inspire a sense of wonder and a connection to the larger rhythms of the cosmos, reminding us of the profound beauty and mystery which lies at the heart of the natural world. Since we are reading De Rerum Natura Lucretius on the nature of the universe, I've left the window open so we can hear the sounds of nature outside. There's the fountain and lots of spring birds and bird song. So let's see what Lucretius has to say about Venus. And a lot of this he's translated from Greek as well. But we're going to read it in English and not Latin. O Mother of the Roman race, delight of men and gods, Venus most bountiful, you who beneath the gliding signs of heaven fill with yourself the sea bedecked with ships, and earth great crop-bearer, since by your power creatures of every kind are brought to birth, and rising up behold the light of the sun. From you, sweet goddess, you, and at your coming, the winds and clouds of heaven flee all away. For you, the earth well skilled, puts forth sweet flowers. For you, the sea's horizons smile, and sky, all peaceful now, shines clear with light outpoured. For as soon as spring days show their lovely face, and west wind blows creative, fresh and free, from winter's grip, first birds of the air proclaim you, Goddess divine, and herald your approach, pierced to the heart by your almighty power. Next, creatures of the wild in flocks and herds bound across joyful pastures, swim swift streams. So captured by your charms, they follow you, their heart's desire, wherever you lead on. And then, through seas and mountains and tearing rivers, and leafy homes of birds and verdant plains, striking sweet love into the breasts of all you make each in their heart's desire beget, after their kind, their breed and progeny, since you and only you are nature's guide, and nothing to the glorious shores of light rises without you, nor grows sweet and lovely. You I desire as partner in my verses, which I try to fashion on the nature of things. For Memmius, my friend, whom you have willed at all times to excel in every grace, for his sake all the more endow my words, Goddess divine, with everlasting charm. Lucretius also gives us a little bit on Leo, the lion, and Hercules. So we're in Book 5. And if you think the deeds of Hercules can stand in rivalry with his, why then you'll stray much further from true reasoning. What harm now could Nemean lion do with gaping jaws or bristling Arcadian boar? What harm the Cretan bull or Lerna's pest, the hydra, fenced about with poisonous snakes? All the constellations we can now see. Hydra, a part of Leo, in the starry skies in the spring. So this month we also see Leo in the night sky. Regulus, the star at his chest, and above him the great bear. Two other stars are Arcturus and Spica in the constellation Virgo. Also ahead of Leo, we see a little dog. This Leo in the sky represents the Nemean lion. This lion, as Lucretius mentioned as well, was part of Hercules' tasks or labors. He had to get the pelt of this lion, but this lion could not be killed. He was invulnerable to all mortal weapons. Consequently, Hercules had to sneak into the cave while it slept and strangle it with his bare hands. we go to Bradford-on-Avon. This is a small town in Wiltshire. Beautiful landscape near the border of Somerset, where Bath is located, or in Roman times it was called Aquae Sulis. It has the Avon River, the Kennet-and-Avon Canal, and many historic buildings. So our visit to this little town and its buildings will give us a broad cross-section of the history from Roman times to the present. Past the Industrial Age. The earliest evidence of habitation in Bradford-on-Avon is fragments of Roman settlements located above the town and above the river. There are remains of a large Roman villa with a beautifully well-preserved mosaic that has been excavated and still stands on the playing fields of the St. Lawrence School. St. Lawrence being practically the patron saint of Bradford-on-Avon. The name Bradford meaning broad ford on the Avon River. The earliest mention of this place is in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle for AD 652. It refers to King Kenwa of Wessex and his fighting a battle here at Bradford-on-the-Avon. Later, the Normans built a stone bridge over the river at the ford, and it still stands today. On its end is a small building which was originally a chapel. The weather vane on top takes the form of a gudgeon, or the local term for a perch fish. A charter in 1001 states that King Ethelred the Unready, who reigned from 978 to 1016, granted the manor of Bradford, consisting of lands, the parish minster or religious community, and the adjacent town, to the nuns of Shaftesbury Abbey, who were refugees of the Viking incursions there. Shaftesbury was one of the richest religious houses in England at the time. Ethelred did this to honour his half-brother, King Edward the Martyr, who had been murdered in 978, possibly by Ethelred's mother's retainers. Ethelred stipulated that Edward's bones should be enshrined at Bradford, where they might be venerated. There is, however, no evidence that the martyred king's remains were ever brought to Bradford-on-Avon. The nuns, however, were. The manor of Bradford-on-Avon was very large. The Domesday Survey of 1086 shows that it had 42 hides with an outlying estate of another 7. There was land for 40 ploughs, 8 of which belonged to the manor farm, Barton Grange. The whole manor was worth £60 a year, making it an outstandingly valuable property. An unusually large monastic manor farm, and it was held by Shaftesbury Abbey until the dissolution in 1539. Lying within this complex of medieval agricultural buildings is a granary and a smaller barn, as well as the great tithe barn. These surviving buildings of Barton Grange are of great historic significance simply for what they reveal about medieval agriculture in Wiltshire and how monastic property was managed and then repurposed after the dissolution. The Bradford-on-Avon tithe barn is one of the finest surviving medieval barns in England and has been dated to the 1330s. It was probably built because Shaftesbury Abbey had secured control of the rectory, the parish church and its associated lands at Bradford-on-Avon by 1332, and thus of its tithes, the 10th part of the property's agricultural produce, to which the rector was entitled. The tithe barn retains most of its original 14th century cruck frame roof, using 3 variants of the truss design. The high quality of its ashlar masonry is also impressive. The other building from this period, also thanks to the Shaftesbury nuns, is St. Lawrence's, one of very few surviving Anglo-Saxon churches in England that does not show late medieval alteration or rebuilding. It is close to the larger Norman parish church of the Holy Trinity, itself built on the foundations of a Roman villa. The church is dedicated to St. Lawrence, a 3rd century martyr. William of Malmesbury reports the church standing in the 1120s, and he thought it dated to the time of St. Aldhelm, 709. Much of the architecture suggests it was built for the nuns early in the 11th century. It is a characteristic of Anglo-Saxon architecture to be tall and narrow, with small windows. The extent and richness of its decoration, however, are rare, perhaps because it's said to have been designed as a mortuary chapel for the relics of Ethelred's half-brother Edward. These remains were housed with the nuns at Shaftesbury. It is the most complete Anglo-Saxon church to survive from this period, and follows what seems to have been a typical monastic plan for the time. And the mortuary has some beautiful decoration, including fragments of large reliefs. There is also a pair of angels flying in relief, about half life-size, if anyone knows what size an angel should be. And these probably flanked a large sculptural group of the Crucifixion over the chancel arch. Some features have been lost, like the porticus to the south, but otherwise the structure of the building is complete in its final Anglo-Saxon state. Shaftesbury Abbey was closed as part of the suppression of the monasteries in 1539 under Henry VIII. In 1546, Henry VIII granted Bradford-on-Avon Manor to Sir Edward Bellingham, a gentleman of the Privy Council. Upon Bellingham's death in 1551, it reverted to the Crown. Over the next 300 years, the manor passed through several hands, until in 1850 the manor was bought by Sir John Cam Hobhouse, Baronet, later First Lord Broughton. The lordship of the manor has remained in the Hobhouse family ever since. Throughout these changes of ownership, Barton Farm continued to be a large working manor farm until 1914. On the 2nd of July 1643, Bradford-on-Avon was the site of a skirmish in the English Civil War when Royalists seized control of the bridge on their way to the Battle of Lansdowne. Today we can still see the bridge, the farm, the tithe barn, and the beautiful Cotswold stone cottages and shops, as well as the bridge tea rooms. The river provided power for the woolen mills that gave the town its wealth. There are still 17th century buildings, weavers' cottages, and woolen mills, dating from the most successful period of this local textile industry that can be seen along the river. With the improving mechanization in textile manufacture during the Industrial Revolution, the wool weaving industry moved from these cottages to purpose-built woolen mills, where they used water and steam to power the looms, until the English woolen industry shifted its centre of power to Yorkshire in the late 19th century. And so ends our visit to this beautiful little town on the border of Wiltshire and Somerset. So, my friend, I'm so glad you stayed with me through April's Study Almanac, where we looked at Venus and Leo and Hercules and his spear, weasels, the bridge at Bradford-on-Avon, and all the bluebells in the woods. It's been lovely to have you here. Have a beautiful month. Be good to yourself, be kind to others, and as always, be extraordinary.